This is Kim Dane, a young man who found himself transported into the universe of his favorite superhero story. Surrounded by monsters and gods, he made a decision to become a villain, but only for one person. Stardust, his favorite hero and longtime crush. With knowledge of the future at his disposal, he secretly hunts down the scum who would one day torment his beloved hero. He teleports into the lair of an A-rank villain, his eyes glowing. With just a flick of his wrist, a surge of psychokinesis crushes the man instantly. Leaving behind a bloody calling card, he offers it as a gift to her. Miles away, the city's golden hero catches the news report. Her face becomes a mask of cold fury as she vows to capture this monster. Yet the public adores him. They call him a dark hero, someone doing what the official heroes cannot. Dane stares at the screen in horror. His plan is failing, turning into the very thing that ruins her reputation. He rises to his feet with a chilling smile. If they truly want a villain, then he'll give them one. Taking an entire skyscraper floor hostage, he broadcasts a live feed to the nation. Introducing himself as Egostick, he claims responsibility for the murders and announces he has planted bombs in 2 major towers. He then throws down a challenge to the A-rank hero of Seoul. As a golden meteor streaks across the sky toward him, Dane puts on his mask, trembling with excitement. She lands like a thunderbolt, and for a brief moment he is nothing more than a fan, seeing his idol before him in reality. But then he remembers his vow. He could not save her as a hero, so instead, he will be her villain. He will draw all the hatred onto himself, becoming the singular evil she can defeat, making her stronger with each victory he offers her. Their eyes lock, and he declares, "I will become a villain just for you." Then he warns her. If she takes one more step, the real game begins. Keep tuned to see the full story as it unfolds. A solitary skyscraper slices through the moonlit clouds, setting the scene for a climactic confrontation. A radiant heroine, glowing with power, declares with grim certainty that their long-standing conflict has finally reached its end. Below, a man in a top hat gazes upward, his long coat whipping in the wind. Egostick smirks, straightening his tie as he delivers a condescending compliment to his rival. Stardust snarls back, her shadowed face twisted with unrestrained fury. Calmly, he explains that their rivalry is finished. She has become far too predictable to hold his interest any longer. His shocking revelation leaves the mighty heroine stunned, speechless, and uncertain. Purple energy swirls around his shoes as he announces this will be their last meeting. Egostick then begins to dissolve, falling backward into a storm of flickering digital particles. At the same moment, a massive rooftop explosion blasts Stardust violently into the night sky. Desperately, she reaches out in one last attempt to stop him. He watches her frantic effort with cold detachment, his fading body dissolving into nothingness. The story then rewinds a few years, revealing a lone figure perched on the ledge of a towering skyscraper. From his lofty vantage point, the cloaked man surveys the sprawling modern city below. Identified as 22-year-old Kim Dane, he quietly confirms his location, the city of Seoul. His quiet reflection is suddenly shattered by a violent explosion erupting in the streets. Down below, a B-ranked villain easily fends off 2 weaker heroes. Holding a familiar mask in his hand, Dane realizes this world is nothing like the peaceful Seoul he once knew. Instead, it is a battleground defined by relentless clashes between terrifying villains and soaring heroes. A dark smile creeps across his face as he understands the truth. He has been reborn inside his favorite comic, Stardust. Determined, he resolves to walk the path of a villain, though one with a hidden purpose. With a sudden flash of purple energy, he teleports to a nearby rooftop. An associate urgently questions his movement, but he calmly explains it away. Now fully dressed in villainous attire, the newly christened Egostick casually suggests they take a short rest. He reassures his unseen partner, Seo, that everything is unfolding according to plan. Using his knowledge of the story's future, he intends to eliminate powerful villains before they grow into threats. His true mission, to protect his beloved heroine, Stardust, from the suffering she is destined to endure. His first target lounges on a sofa, completely unaware of the danger about to strike. Ego's-Tick smirks, pistol in hand, grateful for the powers that fuel his secret crusade. He demonstrates his first ability, teleporting the weapon directly beside his victim's head. The A-ranked villain, Rhino, recoils in fear as Ego's-Tick reveals his second power, psychokinesis. His shadow looms ominously over the panicked villain, silently delivering his final judgment. Once the battle is done, Ego's-Tick uncovers blueprints that prove Rhino had been preparing yet another devastating attack. A flashback reminds us that this man was destined to become Rhino, one of the S-rank villains in the original comic. By striking early, Ego's-Tick has prevented the chaos tied to the villain's discarded rhinoceros mask. Through his comms, Seo warns him that authorities will arrive in just 5 minutes. Casually, she then requests he bring her an ice cream bar, undercutting the deadly tension of the mission. Before leaving, Ego's-Tick dips his finger in the red evidence left at the scene, scribbling a cryptic message across the large window. With a sinister grin, he admires his handiwork, convinced it will make a perfect gift for his future rivals. Moments later, authorities arrive and confirm the victim was indeed the A-ranked villain, Rhino. Investigators quickly connect the dots to another recent case, realizing a serial villain hunter is on the loose. An officer nervously hands a notepad to his superior, revealing a disturbing discovery. The camera pans to show Ego's-Tick's cryptic message scrawled across the windowpane. Stardust clenches her fists, vowing with burning rage to capture the audacious culprit behind this display. News of the incident spreads quickly, with the public shockingly supportive of the mysterious new villain. Back at his hideout, Ego's-Tick furiously shakes a monitor, shouting that there is a huge flaw in his plan. Spiraling into panic, he realizes his actions have triggered unforeseen consequences. His tirade is interrupted by the arrival of Seo, who is clearly tired of his theatrics. The brilliant Han Seo, ice cream in hand, demands to know what has him so distressed. He blurts out that the public now views him as a hero, completely undermining his intended role. Ego's-Tick explains that his rising popularity will only damage Stardust's image in the eyes of the people. Renewed with determination, he clenches his fists, vowing to become a truly despicable villain. He instructs Seo to prepare for their next move, though she remains unimpressed by his dramatic resolve. With a confident smirk, he points forward, ready at last to make his real villainous debut. From a hidden armory, he selects his equipment, declaring it time for Ego's-Tick's grand entrance. He arms a powerful explosive, carefully placing it inside a bag for his public performance. The scene shifts to another skyscraper, the stage chosen for his dark spectacle. A silent countdown ticks away while unsuspecting civilians enjoy the observatory's breathtaking view. Suddenly, his face flashes across every screen, formally introducing himself to his terrified audience as the villain, Ego's-Tick. His broadcast sends waves of panic through the observatory, screams echoing as chaos erupts. His face then looms across the entire city, announcing responsibility for defeating villains in the past. With a dismissive wave, he declares those deeds meaningless and gestures toward a distant skyscraper. Viewers at home quickly recognize it as the iconic 127 tower. But Ego's-Tick is not done. He dramatically points to his second target, the observatory of the 61 building. Inside that very building, the realization dawns on the trapped civilians. They are his victims. With a cruel grin, Ego's-Tick unveils his terrifying scheme. Explosives have already been planted in both towers. The broadcast cuts to the desperate attempts of civilians trying, and failing, to escape the lockdown. Across the city, a man watching the live feed is so stunned he nearly chokes on his drink. Surrounded by swarming cameras, Ego's-Tick raises his voice, declaring that the game has begun. He challenges any hero brave enough to step forward and try to stop him. He boldly calls out to Seoul's A-rank hero, Stardust, personally challenging her to stop him. As he expected, the golden-haired heroine is already streaking toward his location at incredible speed. He pauses for a brief moment to mentally check his villainous outfit, making sure every detail of his costume is flawless. Adjusting his mask, he feels an unexpected tremor of excitement at the thought of finally meeting his idol. Stardust arrives with a ground-shaking entrance, landing with such force that it sends a massive shockwave across the rooftop. From his vantage point, he watches as she elegantly emerges from the swirling dust and rubble. The villain is struck silent for an instant, utterly captivated by her powerful arrival. Stardust, the A-rank hero, stands tall, radiating a presence of absolute strength and confidence. Seeing his favorite character standing before him leaves Ego's tick blushing and completely starstruck, his composure faltering. As the dust settles, hero and villain finally face each other on the rooftop battlefield. Ego's tick straightens himself quickly, forcing an air of villainous confidence into his posture. The story then rewinds, showing a frightened young man stumbling through a dark, unfamiliar alleyway. He clutches the wall for support, groaning in pain and confusion from his sudden arrival. Slumping against the bricks, he desperately longs to return to his own world. Suddenly, a flash of light catches his eye, pulling him from his despair. Looking up, he sees a massive holographic billboard of the hero Stardust. His confusion begins to shift into dawning disbelief. As he stares at the glowing advertisement, his cheeks flush with color as the impossible truth finally settles in. The billboard confirms what he suspected, revealing both the hero's name and the world he's somehow been thrown into. His very first thought is simple: becoming a hero may be the only way to get close to her. Yet he recalls the tragic future that awaits her, one filled with sorrow and loss. He realizes that, even as a hero, he would never have the power to defeat the villains destined to harm her. To truly save her, he decides that becoming a villain is the only path left open. Back in the present, Stardust glares at him with burning hatred, finally naming him as her new enemy. He meets her stare calmly, concealing his true intentions behind the mask and the brim of his hat. As she prepares to charge, he raises a detonator, halting her mid-step as floating cameras record the tense moment. Without a word, he dedicates his villainy to her, silently warning her not to move closer. A sinister grin spreads across his lips, daring her to test the cost of defiance. The scene flashes back again, revealing 15-year-old Kim Dane lounging in his living room, munching popcorn. He bursts into laughter while watching a silly superhero show, utterly absorbed in the fictional world on his screen. To him, the villain seems hilariously over the top. Between bites, he questions the absurdity of the villain's exaggerated personality. Years later, Ego's tick would embody that very same manic energy he once mocked. Stardust fumes at Ego's theatrical antics broadcasted across the city. With a flourish, Ego's tick gestures toward a screen displaying the trapped civilians. He highlights his second target, setting the stage for his grand confrontation with Stardust. Just moments before, he had tipped his hat to greet her upon arrival. Directly addressing Stardust, he exudes confidence in his control of the situation. Ego's tick unveils the stage he has built for their battle. Stardust demands the release of the hostages, vowing swift victory if he resists. Ego's tick mocks her demand with feigned compliance, promising to unlock the elevators for the civilians. Suspicious, Stardust narrows her eyes, sensing the trap behind his easy agreement. Inside the tower, a relieved hostage rushes to use the newly unlocked elevator. But Agostic's face suddenly reappears on the screens, revealing the cruel twist in his game. He explains that saving one building would condemn everyone in the other, leaving Stardust horrified. He sets a 30-minute timer, warning that both bombs will explode regardless. Then, with sly cruelty, he tempts the hostages, reminding them that the lives they'd sacrifice are strangers. Bursting into laughter, he revels in the chaos now broadcast for the entire city to witness. Stardust grits her teeth, pure fury rising as she listens to his sadistic ultimatum. Through the camera lens, he declares that his game has begun, a grand display of human nature itself. Inside the tower, panic erupts as hostages argue whether to sacrifice the other building to save themselves. The moral struggle splits them apart, some begging for action, others recoiling from the deadly choice. Among them, one desperate civilian watches helplessly, questioning why Stardust hasn't saved them already. Meanwhile, Stardust herself calculates her options, knowing a direct assault is too dangerous if Egostick holds a backup plan. Her eyes burn cold as she confronts him, disgusted by his ruthless manipulation of innocent lives. But Egostick calmly brushes off her anger, instead offering an oddly thoughtful critique of her heroic ideals. His unexpected compliments leave her speechless, unsure how to respond to his unsettling words. Continuing his monologue, he explains that the real spectacle is watching a hero of her level rendered powerless. A twisted smile stretches across his face as he declares her helplessness to be his true inspiration. With his shoes glowing ominously, he offers her a chance to join his game, promising to connect her with the hostages in need of hope. As he begins to teleport away, Stardust is left utterly baffled by his strange proposal. He explains that if she can successfully inspire the civilians to hold out for 30 minutes, he will, with a sinister grin, disarm the bombs, adding yet another layer to his cruel game. Stardust glares at him with suspicion, unwilling to trust even a single word from her manipulative foe. Yet he calmly reminds her that this is her only chance to act. With a dramatic snap of his fingers, he prepares her stage. A swarm of drones and cameras were to life, counting down to broadcast her live across the city. Instantly, her image appears on screens everywhere, making the entire city her audience. Down below, citizens gaze upward in awe as their hero's face lights up giant billboards. Stardust begins her broadcast, sending a message of hope to the terrified hostages. From a distance, Egostick watches with satisfaction, pleased that everything is unfolding exactly as he envisioned. His role is simple: to be the villain who creates the crisis, providing the stage for the hero. All Stardust must do now is shine for the cameras, becoming the very symbol of hope he needs her to be. He dedicates the entire spectacle to her in his mind, a grand performance meant solely for her. Stardust rallies the hostages, urging them to stand firm and prove their strength against evil. Her stirring words reach the trapped civilians, inspiring them to cling to hope and resist fear. A faint smile creeps across Egostick's face, showing that her successful speech was part of his elaborate plan. Suddenly, the timer glitches, flashing down to the last 5 seconds as Stardust stares at the screen. As the countdown approaches its end, the hostages brace themselves, praying and clutching their loved ones tightly. With only 2 seconds left, Stardust watches intently, her determined expression hiding a trace of nervous sweat. The countdown hits 0, and the hostages prepare for the inevitable, embracing each other in what they believe are their final moments. A mother shields her child with a look of terrified acceptance, resigned to their fate. Elsewhere in the tower, a couple holds each other in one last fearful embrace, finding comfort only in each other. Stardust remains among the now defused drones, stunned that not one person chose to sacrifice the others. Egostick grabs his head in disbelief, his plan to reveal human selfishness shattered by their selflessness. He glares down at the heroine, unable to grasp their actions as she calmly counters his bleak worldview. Stardust proclaims her unwavering belief in humanity's inherent goodness, a faith that has just saved countless lives. The villain suddenly realizes that it was Stardust's inspiring words that brought about this unity. Instead of anger, an amused grin spreads across Egostick's face at this unexpected twist. As Stardust charges forward, he disappears in a burst of purple energy, leaving behind a promise that their next clash will be different. Teleporting away, Egostick looks utterly shocked, his plan in ruins. Stardust glares after him, brushing aside the rookie villain's theatrics with fiery determination. She lands triumphantly on a bridge, securing a clear victory in the eyes of the people. Below, the citizens of Seoul erupt into cheers, chanting their hero's name. Meanwhile, Egostick reappears in a flash of purple energy, stumbling down an empty corridor. His dramatic escape ends in a graceless faceplant as his body smacks against the hard floor. The villain trembles on the ground, his cool exterior replaced by comical agony. A flashback reveals the fatal flaw in his power, The farther he teleports, the more damage he suffers. His partner, Son, finds him sprawled out and immediately mocks his choice of headwear. She calls his villain persona pathetic, while he weakly begs her for a glass of water. Disgusted, Sayo tells him coldly to get it himself, leaving the villain helpless on the floor. Meanwhile, news outlets celebrate the successful rescue, confirming Stardust's flawless victory with no casualties. The heroine clenches her fist, disgusted by his manipulative games and vowing to capture him without fail next time. His partner eventually brings him water, but in her own way, dumping it straight onto his face. The scene shifts to the imposing headquarters of the Korean Hero Association, where the incident is under review. Inside, a presentation displays headlines from across the nation, all centered on the new villain, Agostic. An official analysis report follows, detailing what little they know about the masked criminal. The president of the Hero Association, Park Jan-ho, officially begins the emergency briefing on this new A-rank threat. He impatiently waves off a recap of Agostic's past crimes, ordering them to move straight to the new intel. The briefing highlights yesterday's attack, suggesting that Agostic used teleportation to plant the bombs. Analysis reveals that the bombs were custom-made and powerful enough to obliterate the observatory completely. The association's president holds his head, realizing the villain is not merely a showman but also a skilled bomb maker. A subordinate reports they have no clue how Agostic bypassed their advanced security to hijack the broadcast. They speculate he must have a highly capable accomplice handling both the transmission and the explosives. The presenter then turns to the most critical part of the psychological profile. Agostic appears dangerously obsessed with Stardust. The evidence is undeniable. He left her a direct message at a previous crime scene and even called her by name. A flashback shows his fixation on Seoul's A-rank hero during his citywide terror broadcast. The president looks directly at Stardust, asking for her personal judgment of the man she fought. She sits in silence, her gloved hand resting on the table as she carefully considers her words. Finally, she delivers her cold assessment. Agostic is a manipulative psychopath and a true villain. 2 days later, Kim Dane is still paying the price of his teleport, groaning pathetically in bed. Once he recovers enough to stand, he rushes to the fridge for a drink. But he's instantly called out for his bad manners, choking and spitting his drink in comical shock. His partner, the unimpressed genius Han Seo-yoon, stands with arms crossed as he scrambles to deny the accusation. Internally, he admits this girl is a genius hacker who played a major role in the original comic. In the story, she was destined to become a terrifying S-rank villain, but instead, he recruited her. A cute diagram shows that he's merely freeloading in her massive underground base, a fact she's quick to remind him of. She repeats her order sternly, telling him to use a cup like a civilized person. He casually agrees, pats her on the head, and leaves her momentarily flustered. Sayo suddenly announces an urgent matter, dragging a protesting DNE across the room with surprising strength. In the control room, DNE brings up a potential accomplice he mentioned earlier, a fan named Lee Subbubin. His partner confirms she's located the target, pointing at a monitor with the details. But the revelation is shocking. Agostic copycats are holding hostages in Incheon. DNE is horrified to realize their potential recruit is caught up in this very hostage crisis. Seo clarifies grimly. The woman isn't a hostage, but one of the armed terrorists leading the attack. The news worsens with reports of fatalities and hundreds still trapped, forcing DNE to get serious. He turns to his partner with a solemn expression, asking her to recite the one rule they always follow. His fist clenches as they both recall their guiding principle. Never harm innocent civilians. With a determined, shadowed expression, he makes up his mind to stop the copycat villains and reach out to Seo-yoon for her aid. Before giving any final word, he chooses to test their potential recruit's loyalty on the spot. Meanwhile, Stardust arrives where the copycat attack has broken out, a building swallowed by smoke and flames. Hovering over the chaos, she requests permission to act, while her command authorizes lethal force if talks break down. Her determination falters when a sudden report reaches her, leaving her stunned to discover that ego's tick is somehow involved. She reflects on how terrorism used to be simple, a direct clash between superpowers and supervillains. But Agostic's approach is different, built on psychological pressure and public spectacle instead of raw strength. The heroine clenches her teeth, angered that a copycat has already appeared to mimic his merciless tactics. Suddenly, her command cuts in, revealing that Agostic isn't just there. He's broadcasting the entire crisis live. A phone screen confirms it, showing his live stream to an audience that's rapidly swelling. Already the broadcast is trending, with viewers treating this life-or-death crisis like some new form of entertainment. Inside, the copycat villains are startled by a sudden intruder, demanding to know who dares enter. They fall silent as the real ego's tick reveals himself, certain their idol has come to join them. The fanatics explode in celebration, convinced their hero has arrived to deliver twisted justice with his own hands. Yet ego's tick fumes inwardly, irritated that these imposters forced him to endure a grueling long-distance teleport. His disinterested demeanor unsettles the copycats, and one nervously asks if he's truly their leader. Without acknowledging them, he takes intel from his partner and calmly pinpoints the terrorist clutching the bomb's detonator. In a blur, he lunges forward, instantly closing the gap. The detonator holder is swiftly neutralized. The immediate threat ended in a decisive strike. Horror dawns on one copycat. This man isn't their savior, but their enemy wearing the mask of their idol. Agostic strides past the others, his silent authority freezing them on the spot. One recoils in shock as Agostic manifests a weapon before him. With a flick of his wrist, an arsenal of floating guns, guided by psychokinesis, takes aim at the remaining terrorists. Smirking with disdain, he makes it clear he would never stoop to associating with such inept pretenders. Outside, smoke pours from the building, signaling the brutal confrontation raging inside. Stardust races toward the chaos, her face grim as she reconfirms her orders to engage. Within, Lee Subyubin stands paralyzed before a levitating gun, terror locking her in place. Seo Yun's voice crackles over the comms, exposing that the girl was unwillingly dragged into this situation. Agostic approaches the trembling woman, who now begs for her life. He calmly removes his mask, offering it to her in a quiet, unexpected gesture. Overcome, Subyubin breaks down, tearfully admitting her wrongdoing under his unrelenting gaze. The hostages look on in silence as she confesses her guilt before the villain. Agostic playfully waves a glowing gun at her, demanding she stop crying. Then he turns to the camera, bowing deeply, taking full responsibility for the copycat incident he inspired. To everyone's shock, the villain promises financial compensation to the victims and their families. Inside, however, he worries about arranging untraceable payments and decides to pass the problem onto his partner. Over the comms, an exhausted CEO urges him to wrap things up and bring their new recruit home. Without warning, he scoops up the terrified Subyubin, preparing to escape quickly. Yet the strain of teleporting with another person leaves him in comical agony. Just as he's about to vanish, Stardust bursts through the wall in an explosion of raw power. Caught completely off guard, he looks up to find his favorite hero finally standing before him. Stardust pushes through the dust cloud, eyes burning with determination as they lock onto the villain. The scene shifts forward in time, landing on the peaceful campus of Yanhee University. News broadcasts confirm Agostic's strange promise. He truly paid compensation to all the victims. In her civilian guise, the heroine sits alone in a sunlit room, scrolling her phone. Revealed as Shin Haru, she sighs in frustration, clearly troubled by news about her nemesis. A flashback shows her hurled through a building during an unseen fight. She recalls her vow to capture Ego's tick, her face hard with burning resolve. In the present clash, she lunges forward, reaching out to finally apprehend him. But Agostic's legs collapse from the strain of his powers, sending him falling. Stardust grits her teeth, furious, as her hand snatches only empty air, missing him by a mere inch. She hurtles through the sky, her strike wasted as the villain vanishes at the last moment. Back in her civilian life, Haru sits in a cafe, sighing heavily while trying to study. Her senior, Kim Chae-hyun, approaches with a drink, asking if an assignment is troubling her. Haru quickly denies it, pretending to focus on her notes though her thoughts drift elsewhere. A narration explains that she uses a special filter to hide her identity as Stardust. Yet even in disguise, her natural charm turns heads, making her stand out. The true weight on her mind is her fixation with egoistic. Her notebook is scrawled with his name as she tries to unravel his cynical philosophy about humanity. She wrestles with contradictions. Why did he save the hostages if he insists everyone is selfish? Her friend interrupts her brooding, teasing her for looking so serious and making Haru blush. Chun cheerfully suggests they ditch studying for Haru's favorite mango dessert. Just hearing mango lights up Haru's face, her eyes sparkling with joy, but the memory of Agostic's manic laughter suddenly cuts through, shattering her mood. Chun notices, concerned, that even dessert can't ease Haru's dark thoughts. Haru grips her pen tightly, mind chained to the villain who has stolen her peace. Clenching her teeth in frustration, she renews her vow to capture Ego's tick. Yet despite her grim mood, her friend finds her pout adorable, offering her a bite of dessert. The scene shifts to what looks like a normal house in Seoul, where a woman approaches the front gate. Once inside, she ignores the main entrance and instead heads for a concealed secondary door. A high-tech panel slides open, revealing the hidden passage to the villain's underground lair. Behind this disguised door, a secret elevator waits, ready to carry their new recruit below. Lee Subyubin carefully enters the security code, granting herself access to the hidden depths. The elevator then plunges downward, dropping dozens of stories into the earth toward the villain's base. She arrives at the Ego base, where DNE is already lounging while Soen complains about him calling her house his own. He teases her by insisting that her house is his too, a claim she instantly dismisses as nonsense. His relaxed attitude abruptly vanishes as he cries out in pain, prompting Sayo to tell him to quit whining. From within a recovery pod, DNE explains that teleporting with another person doubles the physical strain. The narration highlights his partner's true identity, the brilliant genius Han Seo-yoon. Unbothered by his theatrics, Soen simply flips back to the page in the book she had been reading. Meanwhile, DNE basks in the soothing effects of the recovery capsule, declaring it the greatest invention ever made. From inside the pod, he throws a thumbs up, earning nothing but a deadpan reaction from a confused Seo. Their newest recruit, Lee Subyubin, arrives carrying groceries, explaining that the fridge had been completely empty. Nervously, she offers DNE a snack, making him internally panic at the thought of a wanted criminal casually shopping for them. Subin proudly states she used her bangs as a disguise, an idea that only makes DNE even more suspicious. Before he can comment further, an excited Seo-yoon comes running, demanding an ice cream bar from Subyubin. DNE watches in disbelief, wondering if they recruited someone solely to do their errands. Now out of the pod, he questions why Subin is even here as she hands over the coveted ice cream to Seo. Su casually explains that she needed Subin's help for a task, leaving DNE utterly baffled. He protests her presence, worried she might betray them, but Seo-yoon calmly dismisses his concerns. She defends Subyubin, clarifying that she had been unwillingly dragged into the Copycat incident. DNE confirms Subin's identity, leaving her shocked that he already knows her name. Seo-won interjects, claiming to know everything about their possible recruit. While licking her ice cream, she reveals that Subin's parents once worked as researchers for the infamous Hanun Group, a name connected to a tragic past. The revelation rattles Subin deeply, leaving her unable to grasp how they discovered her hidden history. Sayo explains that she easily bypassed Subin's online security and uncovered posts where Subin vowed revenge. Speechless, Subyubin listens as Sayo recounts her determination to make Hanun pay for her parents' fate. The young genius then reveals her own vendetta, declaring that she too has set her sights on Hanun's leaders. With cold determination, Seo extends a hand, formally inviting Subyubin to join her mission of vengeance. DNE watches closely, his expression shifting to seriousness as he takes in the situation. He realizes Subin is another victim of the shadowy Hanun group, just like Soen. He recalls how recruiting Seo Yoon with the promise of revenge not only gained him an ally but also saved her from a villainous fate. Considering their new recruit, DNE dismisses Lee Subyubin as a minor character from the original story, questioning her true potential. His thoughts are suddenly shattered when he sees Soen and Subyubin collapse into a tearful embrace on the floor. DNE stares in complete confusion as the two girls cling to one another in dramatic emotional bonding. Internally, he notes the bizarre scene, realizing Soen's hardened persona is falling apart. Choosing not to interfere, he quietly retreats back into his recovery pod, letting the girls continue their heartfelt moment. The story shifts to a restaurant, where diners whisper and stare at a tense situation unfolding at one table. A frightened woman trembles, begging her dining partner to leave her alone. Her pursuer, a man with purple hair, glares at her in irritation, annoyed she's causing a public scene. A police officer steps in, but the man arrogantly dismisses him, refusing to be interrupted mid-meal. The officer seizes his arm, declaring him under arrest for non-compliance. At that instant, red energy surges as the man's teleportation power activates on contact. In a blink, the officer is transported to the top of a skyscraper, bewildered by the sudden shift in location. Looking down, he realizes in horror that he is falling from a staggering height. The villain casually kicks him off the ledge, sending him plummeting toward the city streets. Now revealed as the A-rank villain Hawk, he smirks menacingly from his high-rise perch. A vision of the original story appears, showing a grim future where Stardust is crushed beneath monstrous dragons. This timeline also reveals Han Seo Yoon becoming the feared S-rank villain, the White Witch. But in the present, the future villain is merely a teenager, furiously scolding DNE for drinking all her orange juice. DNE panics under her wrath, while Subin quietly smiles at the chaos. Seo and Subin share another warm hug, their budding friendship solidifying as they do chores together. DNE observes them, suddenly questioning whether Soen has finally stopped pretending to be a boy. He recalls how she once called him bro, laughing at the memory of her old persona. The narrative then reveals Han Soen's true identity as a superintelligent survivor. A flashback shows she was the only child to survive Hanun Group's horrific experiments. One day, a surge of uncontrolled power from another subject triggered a catastrophic explosion, wiping out the entire facility. Only Seo crawled from the wreckage, battered yet alive. Determined, she escaped and found refuge in the basement that would later become her hidden base. For years, the young genius lived in isolation, sharpening her skills in the shadows. Another flashback shows the moment DNE first encountered the lonely, distrustful Soen. She had been defensive and hostile, clutching a fork as her only weapon. He approached calmly, extending a hand and assuring her he meant no harm. With a confident smile, he declared he was there not to hurt her, but to save her from her solitude. He reflects on her tragic fate in the original timeline, vowing to keep her from becoming a villain doomed to die alone. Returning to the present, he wonders if she is already a villain by association, but resolves to guide her onto a better path. A chibified Seo Yoon playfully brushes off his curiosity, emphasizing the ease of their now familiar dynamic. His thoughts drift to their newest recruit, recalling Lee Subyubin's tragic history alongside her remarkable academic accomplishments. He envisions Subyubin's future role, realizing her computer expertise will become an essential tool for Seo Yoon's operations. Though he admits suspicion toward the new recruit, since she wasn't in the original story, her extraordinary cooking skills have already won him over. With pride, he unveils his latest invention, a small spider-like sensor designed for location tracking. Seo questions what the device is for, prompting DNE to remind her of their true mission. He explains that their next target is the A-rank villain Hawk, a formidable teleporter. A diagram demonstrates Hawkshaw's ability to teleport endlessly without consequence, making him impossible to restrain with psychokinesis. He complains about the physical strain of his own teleportation, but Seo Yoon energetically orders him back to work. Now fully suited, he prepares to infiltrate the target's hideout, only to receive a sharp command from Seo Yoon to pick up the pace. Hesitant to teleport in blindly, he listens as Seo impatiently outlines her plan to tag the villain with the tracker. She declares the device is faster than a bullet, dismissing his doubts, and once again orders him into action. When he questions the complexity of the strategy, Seo angrily explains their target never walks, leaving a direct ambush as the only viable tactic. Back at the base, Seo downs a bottle of water while Subin nervously watches the mission unfold. Blushing, Subin cheers for Agostic, quickly becoming his newest and most enthusiastic supporter. Even the stoic Son cannot resist, awkwardly offering a rare cheer for her partner. Agostic smirks with confidence, declaring to the team that the operation has officially begun. He teleports directly into Hawkshawl's apartment, completely blindsiding the A-rank villain. Hawkshawl's eyes widen in shock, realizing his private sanctuary is no longer his own. Wasting no time, Agostic raises 2 pistols, prepared to launch the trackers. He fires, sending the spider-like devices curving through the air. Yet Hawkshaw reacts instantly, vanishing in a burst of red energy just as the trackers close in. Agostic shouts in frustration, urgently asking Seo Yoon if the tracker managed to stick before the villain disappeared. At the base, Seo Yoon immediately demands the hacker provide new coordinates. Without hesitation, Agostic teleports again, determined to pursue his elusive target. He materializes in the middle of a bustling street, instantly drawing the shocked stares of the public. The villain realizes his once covert mission has exploded into a public spectacle, a complication he hadn't foreseen. In seconds, his sudden appearance spreads across social media, live-streamed by countless citizens. Meanwhile, inside a quiet university lecture hall, Shinharu remains unaware of the chaos until a dispatch crackles through her earpiece from the Hero Association. The news of her nemesis's public arrival jolts her into shock. Haru abruptly excuses herself from class, her identity as Stardust taking priority over her ordinary student life. Her friend watches in confusion, left wondering about the sudden emergency. Stardust soars toward the city, determined to confront Agostic's newest scheme. On the ground, Agostic receives fresh intel from his partner, pinpointing Hawka's location at a nearby crosswalk. The villain staggers into the street, clutching his arm where the tracker has successfully attached. With confirmation secured, Ego's Tick teleports forward, ready to bring the chaotic chase to its end. But back at the base, Seoin suddenly screams a dire warning, having noticed an unexpected danger. A massive truck barrels down the road, heading straight for the unaware villain. Agostic's confident smirk fades instantly, replaced by pure terror as he faces the looming threat of imminent doom. In the next scene, we come back to a past incident where a man is hanging from the bridge with the help of a rope. PTH people from the above called the hanging person's name, "Hey, Kim Hak-sheol, you liked it when you ran off with our money, don't you?" Kim Hak-sheol, now hanging by just a thin rope, exclaimed, "I'll pay you back all the money. Please spare me." But the other guy, not giving a damn about his frantic screaming, shouted no need. And with that, he starts burning the rope, tying the life and death of Kim Hak-sheol. Kim, in order to survive, kept begging, "I was wrong, just this one time, please spare me." Okay, let that all aside. I don't know you, and just cut a rope of this size with flames from a cigarette, man. I wonder if his cigarette is fueled by carcinogens. And there he goes, our little villain falling to his destiny, of course, while cursing the people who were trying to send him to his maker. But wait, plot twist, God, not wanting to see his stinky face for now gives him a second chance. Kim Hak-sheol, on the brink of death, activated his teleportation power and came back to the bridge where he fell from. Everyone, including him, was shocked viewing the situation, but after a few moments, the goons, getting their shit back, started attacking Kim. But Kim, reveling in his newfound power, starts laughing maniacally. Hell, he even comments that there is no one in this world who can catch me. And with that, he starts his journey of becoming a truly despisable villain. Now, back in the present, MC sees the upcoming truck Kuin teleports into it. The driver, being an ordinary sucker like us, freaks up after witnessing all of this. From the back, Kim Hak-cheol, seeing MC was unscathed, started cursing his luck. While activating his powers, he mentioned, "I barely got timing right, and it still didn't hit." Before Kim Dane could catch him, he ran away to a farther balcony. Catching his breath, he commented that the guy is definitely egotistic. Man, after all that drama, he just got MC's car wrecked appliance. I guess his IQ in knowing people is in minus's digits. Anyway, after a long mental mastication, he still kept thinking, "I thought he killed those two villains because of a personal grudge." Still being delusional, he thought it had nothing to do with me. Interpreting his thought, Kim Dae-in spoke from under the balcony, Yes, I'm busy with work right now." "Oh my, there, don't be alarmed. I won't hurt you. Now let's go to hell." Man, now that I think so, MC is kinda acting like the Joker from the DC universe and also having the personality of the Penguin. Let me know how he resembles the most in your opinion. Kim Hak-cheol, seeing MC is after him, started cursing his luck. Man, no way, why is he just going around hunting and killing only villains? The teleporter declares from a rooftop that he has come to take out the trash. With a sudden burst of purple energy, he materializes directly before Hak-cheol, prepared to strike. Infuriated by the teleporter's mockery, Hak-cheol seizes a nearby civilian. With a powerful kick, he launches the unsuspecting woman through the air. At her side, the teleporter's glowing hand appears, revealing that he had been speaking through her the entire time. Effortlessly, the teleporter catches the woman, presenting himself as a gallant savior with a theatrical flourish. Hak-cheol staggers forward, his strength drained, his footsteps smearing blood across the pavement. Hanging his head in defeat, he wonders why he has become the prey in such a calculated hunt. His body finally collapses, sending him face first into the ground before the stunned onlookers. Helpless, he realizes his attacker is none other than the infamous A-rank villain, the teleporter. The teleporter looms above him with a gun, declaring that Hak-cheol's own actions have sealed his fate. A wicked grin spreads across his face as he admits to being a villain, though one who claims to follow a twisted moral code. Turning to the crowd, he dramatically exposes Hak-cheol's past crimes of theft and murder. Shock sweeps through the public, quickly giving way to outrage, and soon they chant for Hak-cheol's punishment. Cornered and enraged, Hak-cheol roars at the hypocrisy of being condemned by another villain. The teleporter then unveils Hak-cheol's grim destiny, a future as an S-rank villain fated to torment a hero known as Stardust. Declaring that they are nothing alike, he announces Hak-cheol must be eliminated. A gunshot cracks through the air, and a splash of red signals the end of Hak-cheol's rampage. The teleporter's eyes widen, not at what he has done, but at the crowd's startling reaction. Rather than fleeing in terror, the people erupt into cheers of approval. Bewildered, he stares at their celebration of such a grim act. Standing over the fallen villain, he reflects that he will never grow used to the strange nature of this world's people. Adjusting his top hat, he steadies himself to face his unexpected fan club. With another theatrical flourish, he bows deeply, basking in the crowd's adulation. Then, with a sly grin, he points his gun forward, challenging the audience's very idea of what a villain is. Confused murmurs ripple through the onlookers as they raise their phones to record the bizarre scene. Suddenly, a voice from the crowd calls out his villain name, Ego's-tick. He looks up to see the hero Stardust descending, realizing he has drawn too much attention. She lands with tremendous force, creating a shockwave only a few feet from him. To his own amusement, he blushes slightly, noting the contrast between her awkward heroic persona and her ordinary self. Stardust glares at him with fury, demanding to know what he thinks he has done. Calmly, he gestures to the fallen villain, claiming he merely acted as any hero would. His nonchalant explanation only deepens her rage, her expression tightening with contempt. He smirks playfully, questioning whether a hero has the right to execute a villain without a trial. Stardust faces him directly, demanding to know if he truly sees himself as a hero. Unaware of who he really is, She unintentionally provides Ego's tick with the perfect moment on live broadcast to elevate her public image. With dramatic flair, he applauds her sense of justice, openly admitting that his own deeds were unlawful, and then readies himself for a graceful exit. But soon, the crowd begins to murmur, questioning why Stardust arrived so late while at the same time praising Ego's tick for his efficiency. This sudden wave of public approval throws him slightly off balance. Quickly regaining composure, he jokingly reminds everyone that he is still a villain, challenging Stardust to capture him next time before disappearing in a swirl of violet energy. Silence follows as Stardust remains among the dispersing onlookers, who slowly retreat from the grim scene. The plaza becomes a chilling tableau, with Hawkshield lying fallen at its center and the hero looming guard over him. A closer glance confirms that his violent rampage has at last reached its end. Stardust's eyes narrow with icy determination as she takes in the aftermath. Meanwhile, Ego's tick materializes again on solid ground, stray sparks of teleportation crackling faintly around him. Almost immediately, he collapses, and a white-haired girl rushes to his side, urgently calling for her ally. To her bewildered companion, she explains that this is nothing more than a temporary side effect of his powers. Together, the two women seize his arms, awkwardly struggling as they drag their dazed leader away from curious eyes.